Greetings to everyone. Mr. Recaps here. Today I'm going to explain a movie called The Art of Racing in the Rain, released in the year 2019. This story tells us about the extraordinary life of Uncle Denny. Have you seen this woman talking with the dog about how the dog feels? While she is pregnant with a baby, then the dog just wants the baby to be as beautiful as he is. That dog wants the baby to grow up to be like him, named Enzo. It looks like the dog is not as unusual as we thought. Let's keep going with the story. Spoilers ahead. Stay safe and enjoy. At the beginning of the film, it shows that Denny has seen a dog. When he saw this dog at first sight, he decided to adopt it. But Denny always felt strange. He realized that the dog had the soul of a person and was not like other dogs. Immediately, Denny decided to take this dog back to his home. While Denny was driving, we saw this dog had seen to his brother and sister and liked to say goodbye to the people who took care of him. Later, Denny comes to enjoy a meal with friends. Then his friends say that this dog will bring good luck to Denny. But Denny has never had experience with dogs before. At first, he gives this dog's name, Enzo. Now Enzo really enjoys playing at the new house, and Enzo also pees on the floor. So, Denny thought Enzo was very messed up, so he took Enzo outside the house. Then he told Enzo about the ways he should do it, such as peeing outside. A moment later, Denny takes Enzo back. At night, while Denny was about to sleep, Enzo woke him up. That also made Denny angry with Enzo. After that, while Denny woke up, he watched TV. He then, enjoying the race, even grabbed his leg and taught him how to drive. It was because of that night that Enzo opened his mind to a new world of experience, and he also started to love racing. Since then, he had always imagined himself as a racer. In the morning, Enzo rides a car with Denny in the middle of the road. It made Enzo happier, and Denny brought him to the racetrack. Enzo looked at Denny in his racing suit and didn't look very attentively. Denny's racing skills had to be successful with his racing. Thanks to his extraordinary ability, God did not disappoint him. Meanwhile, a sponsor of a racing championship came to see Denny. He wanted to invest in his talent, and that made Denny seem very happy to hear that. Many years later, Enzo had spent a perfect childhood with Denny. He felt Denny would be the greatest racer. And Denny always takes Enzo with him in all his races. One day, the presence of a girl named Eve makes Denny feel special. Denny invited her to visit his race car. And went on to claim that he was a good racer. At first, Eve knew nothing about the race, but the truth was beyond her expectations as she was happy to watch the race. Turning to Enzo, he now gets another scent from a new member of the family. Do not worry if I love my master too much. Of course, if my master is happy, I am happy too. Do not be jealous of me. After a while, the two of them got married. Enzo doesn't like relationships, but who knows, because I'm just a dog. I can only wish both of them a happy marriage. But day by day, they became closer. In a fit of rage, I accidentally broke the photo frame. A sad dog will despair at this time. The smashing made them both unhappy. But Denny thinks it was because Enzo was so excited. After a while, Enzo started to get a new mysterious scent from Eve. Now the mistress is pregnant. Later, Eve announced the news to everyone immediately. After hearing this, Denny was happy. It was a dream to welcome this new member, but he also had to focus on making money. Denny tried to train and went to a lot of competitions. And that also means Enzo spends more time with the mistress. At first glance, Enzo doesn't like Eve much and only likes Denny. But Enzo gradually changed his life by taking care of Eve and even listening to the movements of the baby in Eve's womb. Enzo thought that there seemed to be great magic inside. Enzo now has a new experience. He spends time with Eve and helps take care of the mistress. Many months have passed since Christmas. Of course, dogs like me have helped to decorate the Christmas tree. At that time, Denny gave Eve a bad hat and provided delicious food for dogs like me. I'm happy to think Denny is not as bad for a dog as I am. Eve's due date is fast approaching. But Denny got a call from work. And they gave Denny the big racing opportunity he had always dreamed of. But Denny worries about Eve and hesitates. Immediately encouraged Denny. Later, Denny decided to go racing. Eve gave birth to a baby that Enzo was taking care of. Eve would watch Denny race elsewhere. After a while, Eve gave birth to a lovely baby girl. Now the room is just empty, and Eve calls Enzo to the bed. That made Enzo feel like never before. The next day, Denny hurried to his house. He blames himself for being unable to be with your wife. But seeing Eve's daughter has a lot of support and understanding for him and comforted Denny as well. As for Enzo, lying on his side quietly, very happy. Since they have daughters, the parents-in-law have always visited. But the father-in-law still feels that Denny's business is still too dangerous. Denny, meanwhile, assures us that in the future he will be more careful to be safe even if he loses the match. Then he nodded to his father-in-law with satisfaction. Enzo is amazed at the great strength of the prince. Unexpectedly, the prince did not intend to give up his dream. Although Denny is in a difficult situation. Since then, they have had a wonderful time together. A few years have passed, and a little girl named Zoe is now 7 years old. Denny usually goes out to compete. Eve takes care of her daughter with Enzo. One day, Eve felt unwell in the kitchen and hurriedly took her daughter home, accidentally forgetting Enzo. This was the first time the owner had left me alone in the house without food and water. Today is the third day I was hungry, and fortunately I was able to find a source of water in the toilet. I was also lucky to have saved my life temporarily because no one opened the door for me to save me. Although I tried to call for help, no one heard me. Then Enzo went to the room and saw the animal's enemy, and they bit it, and it was broken. The next morning, Denny returned home without seeing his wife and children, only Enzo, and he understood what had happened. After a while, the wife and children returned home. Eve explained to her husband that she was not feeling well, so she hurried to the doctor and even forgot Enzo was at home. Denny and Eve rushed to see the baby. Zoe told her parents that her toy had been bitten by Enzo. Denny grabbed Enzo and shouted at him. For a while, Enzo still thought it was a zebra doing these things to hurt him. He was upset because this did not work well and his owner was angry with him. The pressures in life become a burden. Enzo just sat quietly listening to Denny's words, but this peaceful moment didn't last long. One day, Enzo and Eve were jogging in the forest. Eve suddenly lost consciousness. Enzo rushed to her. But couldn't do anything, he could only go down and call someone to save her. While someone saw that this could take her to the hospital that Enzo had never seen. I'm so disappointed and frustrated now. Because I'm just a dog that can't speak human language, even going to the hospital can't do anything. Now Danny comes with me to take care of Eve at hospital. I also want to be in the hospital with Denny. But, of course, they will say no to allowing cats and dogs. Only now did I realize that no one cared about me anymore, they just chained me to the side. If I was human, I wanted to run away to the hospital to visit Eve. But then I believed Denny could handle everything. One moment later, Denny comes to pick me up. He still had to stay in the hospital because he could take care of both his wife and daughter. He placed me in a car repair shop, where I gained valuable experience. At that time, I also saw that Denny had a little hard time in life. This is the first time that Denny will be taking his daughter to school. He also doesn't know how to prepare food for his daughter, so he bought some fast food for her. When he's busy, he will take the baby out to his grandmother's house to play for a few days. One day, Enzo sees Zoe playing with dolls and misses her mother. She asks her doll if she misses her mother. The first time Enzo feels like he can't talk, even though things can't be said in human languages, but for Enzo, he's also sad about this story too. When Eve was also released from the hospital so that she could recover better, they moved back to her parents' house. It was at this time when Enzo saw Eve. He felt sorry for her. Eve comes to say hello to everyone and Enzo. Before, Enzo used to hate people. That blonde woman now has him missing her more and more. Her illness is serious and it's probably her last days. The couple is lying in bed enjoying the rest of their precious time. But until now, Eve is still living her life because of her family's refusal to give up her life and enjoy it with them. Only then did Enzo know how much Denny loved Eve. However, in front of everyone, Eve's medical condition is deteriorating. At the end of her life, she doesn't want to leave her loved one. What she wants for the rest of the day is a life full of happiness. But that day will come, and she will not be afraid of death because everyone has to die. She had come to the end of the way. And Enzo takes care of me in this family too. Then I watched her take her last breath with my own eyes until she died. The very strong little girl didn't ask anything of her mother, but she cried. Actually, she was also trying not to let her father suffer more. They all came to the funeral of the mistress, and Enzo could only pick up Eve's hat in advance and hug her hat. The next day, the girl Zoe had prepared something. Seeing this, Enzo thought that maybe the little girl was preparing a toy. But obviously, the little girl is not feeling well right now because of the sudden loss of her mother. Enzo seems to understand her, so she leaves quietly. After burying his wife, Denny was experiencing something I did not expect. That is, his wife's parents submitted a request to take care of his daughter. Because his father-in-law thinks Denny has that in the races. How can he take care of his family while he always loves racing? But Denny does not care what his father-in-law says. Of course, his wife's parents must have threatened to sue. Denny was so angry that he accidentally pushed his father-in-law. Unbeknownst to him, this is what dragged him into a new situation that may even lead to his imprisonment. The father-in-law's lawyer insists with Denny that in the United States, every child will be handed over to their biological parents. Denny's lawyer says Denny will go to jail, but only if he refuses. If you release the detainee, that means all of your rights will be taken away during the investigation. So, you also can't see your daughter for 90 days. This puts a lot of pressure on Denny when he has to pay all the money back, including hiring a lawyer to get his daughter back. Because Zoe misses his dog, Enzo. So, she asked her grandparents for permission to visit Enzo. Enzo came to visit Zoe for a few days and saw that the little girl missed her father but could not meet him. Only Enzo ate and slept while watching his little sister. But who knows, maybe the father-in-law did not like the dog and gave poor Enzo a lemon to eat. As a result, he was watching TV. Meanwhile, he smelled the sin of his hand. He sat and watched his fart. But Enzo had already pooped territory on the carpet. The father-in-law was very angry with this dog and asked his wife to clean up. The next day, Denny was going to meet the developer of the Ferrari car company, who heard his name has been around for a long time. But he did not expect that he could be such a skilled driver. But he spoke out settling personal matters. He had also finished his work in 2 nights. Finally, 90 days have passed. Now Denny has met his little daughter again. He personally cooked a hearty meal for her and promised that he would win for her. After that, he took a little girl into the car to go back to her grandmother's house. The lawyer told him to reconsider giving up custody to avoid failure in the next trial. And he ran through the rain to catch the pain in his heart. But he didn't know that his dog was running behind him because of him. But Enzo was old and weak and couldn't chase him. When Denny was just passing an intersection. Meanwhile, he found his dog running towards him. Suddenly, behind Enzo, a car sped towards him, and he was hit by the car. They were looking at him, and they rushed to take him to the veterinary hospital. After checking, doctors saw that he had lost too much blood and his internal organs were severely damaged. The doctor told Denny that with Enzo's age comes vulnerability like that. He was almost dead. But Enzo tried to be strong enough to continue and believed that he could overcome this danger. The next day, the lawyer had the letter confirming the waiver of custody of the child. Denny has no other choice. He does not want to risk losing his daughter. When Enzo saw this, he imagined everything was because of that zebra toy. So, he stood up and grabbed the papers. He took them out to the yard to tear them up. Meanwhile, Denny also understood what Enzo meant. So, he accepted to go to court, but if he lost, in the event that his mother-in-law stood as a witness to his son-in-law before, his parents-in-law felt uncomfortable because of that, but now they realized that Denny loves his daughter so much. So, she denied all his accusations to her son-in-law. Denny thanks his mother-in-law for helping him take his daughter back. Now Enzo and Denny happily drove to his parents-in-law's house to pick up his daughter. Enzo saw this and it made him very happy about what he could do this time that helped Denny's life get back to normal. Returning to the company's boss, he personally called Denny to invite him to work today. Several months ago, Zoe's 9th birthday. Her friends all came to the birthday party. Even his parents-in-law, who came to celebrate the niece's birthday. After finishing a party for her 9th birthday. At that time, Enzo's body was getting weaker and weaker. He didn't have the strength to jump up to welcome his owner back. Denny also lifted Enzo into his lap. Then, once again, our Enzo died. But in Enzo's, it felt as if he had lived a few times what he had seen on TV. People thought a dog after dying wouldn't be passed on as a human. But not all in this case. Enzo had a lot of experience in his life. When Denny led him to the track, he didn't expect his dream of riding a racing car as a professional racer to come true. In the past, it seemed to appear in front of my eyes like yesterday, and then it seemed so far away. For 10 years now, a piece of Enzo believes that Denny will definitely become an excellent Ferrari driver. He really wants to stay here with him to see that moment come with his own eyes, but his life is too short to know how many laps his friend can run before separation makes him hurt. 8 years later, Denny has become a professional racer. That day, a man brought his son to him to ask for a signature. The boy is a big fan of Denny. Denny asked the boy what his name was. The boy told him that he was named Enzo. Enzo's name makes Denny seem to stop and reminisce about his old friend Enzo. I've been gone for 8 years, and then Denny still remembers me just yesterday. The dog spent his whole life walking away. In the final sense, Denny asked Enzo, if you want to get the guide, you can please contact me. This is what surprised the father, and thanks to them, before the little boy left. Enzo also looked back at Denny and Zoe again. A dog's life was only there. It's true that all pets are very loyal and protect you to the best of their ability when you are sad. They will come to you to confide in, although this friend can't speak, but understands the owner's ideas very well, even though he has not witnessed become a person. The famous racer with his dog is the best memory of Denny. I province believing that these loyal friends will never leave even if the owner has a second-rate cat, they will still come by your side. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and give like to help the channel out. See you in the next video. Mr. Recaps says goodbye.